proud now to introduce our new Accenture Ireland Country Managing Director. Please welcome my friend and colleague, Hilary O'Meara.
Good morning, everyone, and I can't tell you how amazing it is to be back here in the Convention Centre after 3 years away. I suppose first up to say a huge thank you to Michelle for those very wonderful and very humbling words. Michelle and myself have known each other for many, many, many years now, and I can't tell you how lucky we are to have her as our inclusion and diversity lead in Accenture. Her drive, her passion, her enthusiasm have all been so fundamental to Accenture's continued progress on gender equality. And I just want to start by saying a massive thank you to Michelle for all that she does for us. You know, I was coming in this morning, it was dark, it was early, and I literally had goosebumps all the way. As Michelle mentioned, I have sat in the audience, I have been on this stage many times at Accenture IWD events over the years, and little did I know that fast forward to 2023, and I'd be standing here in front of you as the CMD of Accenture in Ireland. When I got the phone call to offer me the job, I was absolutely thrilled, as you can absolutely imagine. But what surprised me was the feeling of confidence that I felt almost immediately, because I knew I would be working with this amazing and this incredible team in Accenture. I knew I wouldn't be doing this role alone. I've also been incredibly struck over the last few months by the welcome and the goodwill that I have received from clients and from the business community more broadly. And I just want to thank everybody for their support of Accenture and of me personally. It feels so right this morning to be standing for my first public address as the Country Managing Director on International Women's Day. A core ambition of my leadership is to continue to advance gender equality at Accenture. It's an area close to my heart, given my direct experience. Many Accenture leaders have gone before me, and they've advocated for gender equality in the workplace at a time when it wasn't talked about, it wasn't popular. And I really am so grateful to them for doing that. We have, of course, come a long way since then. We are 50-50 male-female in Accenture today, and we have nearly 40% of our managing directors are female. But of course, as Michelle mentioned, there is still so much to be done. You know, it's a real change, should I say, requires courage and to act with intention if we are serious, really serious, about creating equality in the workplace. So in preparing for today, I have been reflecting on my career. And when I look back on the early years, it didn't strike me as unusual that I was often the only woman in a room full of men. I joined Accenture in 1993 when there were less than 100 employees in Ireland. Today, we are 6,500 people. I still remember, as if it was yesterday, turning up in the office in my new Laura Ashley suit. Yes, there were more graduates that were male that day than females, but it just wasn't something that struck me as odd. We just didn't talk or think about it back then. It was only when I started to get promoted and join leadership teams that I slowly became aware of being the minority in the room. I will never forget the day a second female colleague, Paula Neera, she'll be on the stage later, joined me at the leadership table. We quickly realized that our perspective on things was actually sometimes different to those of our male colleagues. And that being the only women in the room, we sometimes, often subconsciously, held back voicing our opinion. And so we came to an agreement. If you speak up, I'll speak up. And quite quickly, the entire dynamic of that leadership team changed. Everyone, not just Paul and I, started to express their point of view more, There was more debate, there was more discussion, which led to a more inclusive culture, and ultimately it led to better decision-making. That was a key learning moment for me, a moment when I realized how important diversity and differences are, and that on reflection, I hadn't been true to myself and what I was and what I stood for until then. And I am sure I am not alone in that. How many of you have found yourselves holding back from sharing an opinion or different perspective at work? I also realized that women had different needs in work. I remember in 2003, I was asked by a previous CMD, Mark Ryan, to establish our first female network. Accenture Ireland, like a lot of businesses back then, were facing a problem that female leaders and female managers were leaving in large numbers. Our research showed they were leaving due to the simple fact that most women believed successful careers and motherhood couldn't go hand in hand. The truth was that while it was now more common for both parents to work, the workplace hadn't caught up with that reality, people's reality. It simply wasn't set up to accommodate two parents working, and as a consequence, working mothers' needs. This was, of course, compounded by the fact that there were very few senior female role models to show that being a working mother was actually possible. We knew back then that things needed to change. So through the Women's Network, we listened to what women needed. We put in place some very simple initiatives that have actually become commonplace today. We introduced flexible working for the first time. We set up female support groups. We set up a buddy system for those on maternity leave, and so on. However, we knew these initiatives wouldn't have lasting impact unless we brought our male colleagues on board. And so we made these initiatives available to everyone. We wanted to ensure we were inclusive and to break the stereotype that women are the primary carers. And so came a major turning point and the beginning of a culture shift at Accenture. I quickly realized in those early years that what we were doing in Accenture was actually quite progressive. We were ahead of the curve, and other organizations were watching the example that we set. Now, despite all these great initiatives and being part of this positive change at Accenture, I still found my day-to-day reality challenging. I was now a mother with young kids, and I felt guilty all of the time. How many women here feel guilty all of the time? I felt guilty leaving the office earlier than my male peers. I felt guilty saying no to after-work events. I felt guilty for taking maternity leave for a third time because I knew how disruptive that was going to be to Accenture at the time. And when I think about it now, I probably felt guilty simply for being a woman. I remember dressing mostly in black and navy. I'm dressing blue today, it's changed, obviously. And I remember dressing to hide my bump when pregnant. When I look back, without actually realizing it, I was trying to blend in with my male colleagues and my clients. And then I remember, it happened quite suddenly, and I started to notice that senior women were wearing colour to work. I remember going to an IWD event like this one, probably 15 years ago now, and noticing women speakers dressed in reds, in pinks, in whites, we saw some of it in the video, instead of the darker colours. And you know what? It was so nice to see. And it was so inspiring because it said to me that women had stopped trying to blend in. We were becoming more confident, more influential in the workplace. We were taking our place and we were slowly reshaping how we work. And that is why, to this day, I feel so passionately about having a diverse and inclusive workforce, one where differences are embraced and celebrated way, way beyond gender. Today in Accenture, we have 109 nationalities and people from different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and we are so much stronger for it. This evolving culture is one of the main reasons that I have continued to grow my career at Accenture, and it makes me so proud to now lead Accenture as CMD. And of course, I wouldn't be here today without the support and encouragement of some key colleagues along the way. Vivian Jupp was the first female partner in Europe, and she took a huge interest in my career, and she mentored me. Similarly, Ian Slattery, Mark Ryan, Alistair Blair, all believed in me and supported me. On a personal level, I'm very fortunate to be able to say that my biggest supporter and my biggest role model has always been my mother. And that is why it is so amazing to have her here with us today in the audience. Thank you, Mum, for always reminding me that I have an equal voice to men and for encouraging me to be the best that I can be. Thank you to my 2 daughters, Aisling and Catherine, to my son Owen, who've been very patient and understanding when work has taken me away. I hope that you being here today is a key moment in your lives and that you remember to always believe in yourselves and to treat others equally. And of course, thank you. Didn't actually expect to get emotional, but there you go. And of course, none of this would be possible without a very supportive husband and a partner, Sean, who has backed and encouraged me all the way. So, as I take up my new role, I commit to continuing to lead the way on gender equality. There is still a lot to do, inside and outside Accenture, and we can never get complacent. Myself and Michelle have agreed that inclusion and diversity will play a key pillar in the CMD portfolio. This means I&D will become more central to the business decision-making, influencing what we do and when we do it. Our ambition is to continue to cultivate a culture of inclusion and acceptance at Accenture by prioritising it and accepting nothing less. What this means in practice is that everyone is free to be their true selves at work, and Accenture being a place where everyone, absolutely everyone, can thrive. Because we know that our differences make us better. So, as we gather here this morning on International Women's Day, let's reflect on what we can all do to further advance gender equality at work. The culmination of our actions, no matter how small, will make a really significant difference. You can back a colleague or a friend when she's trying to have her voice heard. We can support a female colleague and mentor her in her career. We can advocate for better policies that are informed by women's realities. So let's keep going. By working together, we've already made and will continue to make real and lasting change. I really thank you for listening, and I really hope you enjoy the rest of the morning. Thank you.